This is the Shimakaze. The Shimakaze has a lot of torpedoes. The Shimakaze is a pretty good destroyer. What if I told you that instead of the 15 torpedoes that the Shimakaze has, you could have 25? This is the Colbert. The Colbert is a very good Tier 10 premium scout cruiser. She's got lots of guns, destroyer caliber. What if I told you that you could have the Colbert's guns, but with almost twice the fire chance? And with 25 torpedoes. This is the Halland. The Halland is the best AA destroyer in the game. What if I told you that you could have the Halland's AA, but with the Colbert's guns, but with almost twice the fire chance, and with 25 torpedoes that are almost as good as the ones in the Shimakaze? What if, indeed? Hello everyone, and welcome back to World of Warships Blitz with Terry. Today we are looking at a brand new ship, and it's a tech tree ship, it's not a premium. This is the Tier 10 Pan-Asian Scout Cruiser, and yes, I'm going to keep calling it a Scout Cruiser because that's what it is. That is the, and I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly, the Jinan. I have found a bunch of different pronunciation. Apparently people are not quite in consent as to how this is pronounced, but I'm going to go with that. And yes, this is, as you can see on the little flag flying up there, this is a Republic of China or Taiwanese light cruiser. This is one of the Super Atlantas, the Project 154 of the Americans, that in an alternate history has been given to the Republic of China. And I am saying alternate history because I am assuming that Jinan is named after the city, which slightly awkwardly is located on mainland China. So I am assuming in the old history version of whatever wargaming has cooked up here, the nationalists have won the Civil War and have been supplied by the Americans with these ships. Anyway, so much for the old history, but let's get to much more interesting things. If that wasn't spicy enough, this is going to be. So, yeah. I did mention a couple of things before the intro, and I maybe I was exaggerating a little bit, but not by an awful lot. So let me show you what I'm talking about here. This is a scout cruiser. This is not a light cruiser per se. This is an extremely squishy ship. In fact, a Minotaur is a vulnerable ship. A Smolensk is a squishy ship. This thing needs a new scale. This thing sinks sinks voluntarily if battleships just look into its general direction. So, but let's begin with going through the numbers I mentioned in the intro, the Jinan and the Shimakaze. Let's have a look at the torpedoes. The Shimakaze has 15 torpedo launchers and has a torpedo range of 10.2 kilometers, a torpedo speed of 69.47 knots, chance of flooding of 30%, and does 5,143 damage. The Jinan does a little bit less damage, but the rest is pretty much the same, only that she reloads them faster. And she's got 20 of them. And she's got torpedo reload. And that's not any old torpedo reload. First of all, she's got 3 of them. And second of all, that's a torpedo reload too, so it only takes a minute and a half for it to come off cooldown. Now, obviously, you can't center launch them because it's a scout cruiser. You have to side launch them. But yes, you have 25 Shimakaze torpedoes for all intents and purposes. What did we mention next? The Colbert. Let's compare these two. The Jinan has I think it says 10 guns, but I think they're actually 12. I'll have to double check because I just noticed when I was looking at the ship that there seem to be 3 turrets in front and 3 turrets in the rear. But the Colbert technically has more, but some of them are side mounted, so you can't use them all at the same time. They have round about the same reload, only that the Colbert's guns are having a 2% fire chance, and this thing's guns have a 3.5% fire chance. Yep. Let's compare the Jinan to the Holland, shall we? The Holland is known to have a very good AA. The Holland has 232 large caliber AA with a 3.9 kilometer range and 305 small caliber AA with a 2.7 kilometer range. The Jinan has almost the same values, only that she's got a better range on the small caliber and in return a slightly shorter range on the large caliber, but she does more damage there. The Jinan, however, has something the Holland does not. The Holland has a defensive AA3, which gives you 100% on the large caliber and 200% on the small caliber. The Jinan has a defensive AA4, which, on top of doing what the Holland does, also gives you 15% extra range on the anti-aircraft guns. So, in summary, we have ourselves an Austin that's actually capable. Because if we compare these two, then they will start looking relatively similar. Yes, you've got half the reload of the Austin. You obviously don't have the rapid reload, but you do have the same fire chance, and you get the armor piercing instead of the semi armor piercing. But other than that, it is an extremely capable ship. So, what is the price you pay for all this firepower? Well, I do have the Elbing in here, so let's take a very brief look. The Jinan has round about the same amount of hit points that the Elbing does. The Jinan, however, has something, or actually has two things that the Elbing does not. The Jinan has a citadel, the Elbing does not have that. And the Jinan has round about enough armor plating to make sure that armor-piercing battleship shells get their fuse triggered and slowed down sufficiently to explode in the middle of the ship, leaving the proverbial equivalent of 2 smoking boots behind. This ship explodes catastrophically when looked at. So that's sort of where the balance comes in. You're approaching the scout cruiser role not from the destroyer side. There's often, when I'm talking about scout cruisers, I'm talking about very large destroyers like the Elbing, like the Khabarovsk, like the Kitakaze, these sort of ships. They don't have these problems as much because they do have a better maneuverability, they're smaller, and they don't have citadels, and they don't actually really have an awful lot of armor. Whereas this thing, it needs to be afraid of everything. It's most likely going to get full penetrations from Christopher Colombo's semi-armor piercing. Think about Hindenburgs, Moskvas, Venezias, all these kind of things that have long range, large caliber armor piercing shells that can make a very, very short life out of the Jinan. So, how have I set this ship up? You get 2 elite bonuses. You can either get better AA or you can improve the guns. Now, my very first thought when I started testing the ship was, oh, well, it's an AG spammer, right? It's got almost twice the fire chance of a Colbert with technically the same amount of guns. So, why not? The thing is, she doesn't get the same shell arcs necessarily as a Colbert, but you can use the guns. You can. They are quite floaty still, and you can use the guns for long-range AG spamming, but it's very situational. And unlike something like the Colbert, you have 25 or almost Shimakaze torpedoes that you can use. They are deep waters, so you can use them against... you cannot use them against destroyers, but you can use them against everything else. So it's kind of, in retrospect, you don't use the guns quite as often as you generally would think you would. But at the end of the day, I would say it's still the better choice because the aforementioned Elbing and other relatively strong gunboat destroyers can actually start posing a little bit of a challenge against this thing. And if you look at the camouflage, it actually reinforces that as well. You do get, with the historical camouflage, you do get torpedo range and torpedo speed, as if you needed that, max traverse and surface detection. So no gun improvements on these, which leads us more towards the stealth torpedo boat role that you can totally play in the ship as well. But again, if you're up against destroyers, you don't have any utility. You do have the fuel smokes, which are kind of useful, but you can't use your torpedoes, and you don't have a sonar or radar. So against enemy destroyers, you are extremely dangerous with the guns. But probably the other challenge that they're posing towards you is that you actually be spotted for the teammates to shoot at you. And that's why I have completely set the ship up for stealth. You will notice that I'm using the high-grade coal instead of the preventive maintenance pack, because you don't have an awful lot of hit points to begin with, and getting every little bit of stealth out of the ship is not a terrible thing. Which leads us to the equipment. I am running the main battery mod 2. You do get 6 turrets, by the way, not the 5 it says in the description. I've checked this. You actually have six active turrets that you can use. So that gets the reload down again. The propulsion in the other slot is a no-brainer, because you really need to get out of dodge very quickly if you have to. And concealment as well. You could be tempted to try and run with steering. I probably wouldn't. It may be viable, but you got to be really, really super careful with your positioning. And I prefer to have a bit better stealth and play a little bit more aggressively and utilize the torpedoes to their maximum potential. Commander-wise, there is actually a legendary commander. I think it's this one. Yeah, it's this one. So he would be obviously the perfect fit for this ship. You get the improved torpedo alert. You get the improved air defense expert, as if you needed that. You get better exploit weakness, and the Mistweaver not so much for the duration of the fuel smoke, but just for the cooldown, so you can use it more often. And you get an extra torpedo reload for 4 reloads and a 25% torpedo reload cooldown time reduction, which means more torpedoes, which is great. The IFAG Plus, they're 127mm guns. I don't think it's going to make any difference. But then obviously the better Giant Hunter skill. There's another legendary commander out there who does not have the extra torpedo reload thing, but who does get the Giant Hunter Plus for more damage to big ships, which is also something you could take. So I think either of these kind of work, although the other one is definitely a better fit. But the preheating is actually not a 100% terrible idea on this ship, because 75% maximum HP is not something you're going to have for very long if you're getting yourself spotted. All right then. But yeah, I am sailing with a regular commander, just a tier 10, level 10 commander. And I have used the artillery maintenance expert just because, I see a cruiser, I put artillery maintenance on him. In retrospect, this was just for testing. In retrospect, I probably would have taken preheating. You could maybe, instead of Daredevil, go for Survivalist if you're using premium heals. But the difference it makes is not going to be great, because if you get shot at, a couple hundred extra hit points are not going to make any kind of difference. So I probably would stick with that one. And yes, like I mentioned, the Mistweaver for the cooldown, not so much for the duration, because it's not an awful lot. All right then, so we have ourselves a ship, which is a ship of extremes. It is, I would say it is the definite approximation of a scout cruiser, but coming from the light cruiser direction, not from the destroyer direction. And let's see her in action. Now, one thing you have to take into consideration, this is a brand new tech tree line. This is a brand new ship. Nobody knows what it's capable of, really. And you have to sort of see things from that perspective. Once people learn what the strengths and weaknesses of the ship are, maybe games end up being different. But that's always true, right? People keep learning. Anyway, we are playing Epicenter Unchained. We are top tier, obviously, because it's tier 10. We're playing against Taiho, Vermont, Yama, Iowa, a Rhone, a Kléber, and a Huguenot. So off we go. We do not want to rush the center cup. Not necessarily because I'm super afraid of the carrier, but Vermont, Yamato, Rhone? Nope, I'm not touching that with a 10-foot pole. So we're going to have to be a little bit more careful. And probably what I'm going to be doing is just going down the flank and making sure that nobody, where there's a lot of island cover, and making sure that nobody does anything funny here. So we've got the HE loaded on the guns. By default, against destroyers, AP is the better choice, obviously. But HE for general HE spammery. And we've got Alsace with us over here. The carrier seems to kind of go central. We have a pretty good concealment, so if we're hanging a bit right, we should not be spotted by the enemy carrier unless he actually goes actively scout, but he is going for the destroyers. Generally, I would give, or in another ship, I would probably give AA cover. Not in this thing, because I am probably in range of Vermonts, and I don't want to be in range of Vermonts. So I'm going to hang right here and see what's coming around. The carrier is friendly carrier is scouting, and there are 2 battleships by the looks of it. The carrier is starting to drop. And we'll see, we'll leave the destroyers to deal with the center cap, but there is I think that's a Yamato going by the rather fancy makeup that she's wearing. I thought I would be unspotted when I do this, but there might be an enemy destroyer in the somewhere in view range. So I'm going to use the fuel smoke because they have spotted me. And I'm going to dunk 15 torpedoes in their general direction, and I'm going to turn around because Yamaha has damage controlled a single fire, but these 2 are now kind of getting themselves into a flanking position that we want to do something about. Unfortunately, they decide to turn around, which I really thought that they would be staying in a flanking position, but I was taking 2 torps, make that 3, and has taken a flood. And has taken a bit of a slapping from something else already as well. The Yama is obviously on permafire because he's for some reason now pushing into the center. So that Iowa is dead, and that Yama is on triple permafire and is going to be dead in a second anyway. So unfortunately, they did make that turn. Otherwise, and that would have been more hilarious if they had run into all my torpedoes. But yeah, that Yama is dead, and unless something goes catastrophically wrong, that should already be game because 2 battleships down. They are holding the center cap, however. So now that that threat is gone, I can actually make my way into the center cap. Hold on, there's a Kleber, shots out, switch to the armor piercing. Probably going to need a little bit more. Klebers are rather quick, and at that range I'm not super precise. There come some torpedoes in. I'm going to go for the cap now, and at the same time provide some assistance against that Kleber over there. I'm just keeping an eye on where the other battleship is and where that Rhone ended up being. But let's grab ourselves the center cap. There's the Taiho, okay. There's the Vermont. Ink. Panic, brown alert. He is reversing, however. So we're going to drop some torpedoes in his general direction. Make that 15 torpedoes. And then we're not starting to shoot at the Vermont, not to tip him off that we're actually targeting him. There come some planes in, so let's start shooting some of these down. Plonk, plonk, plonk. There go the airplanes. And I was going to send another 10 torpedoes in the general direction of the Vermont. Some of them might hit. But now I do need to get out of here. Unfortunately, the Vermont isn't targeting me, so he is just starting to take some torpedoes. I'm not sure where if that airdrop, I think that airdrop was meant for the smoked up destroyer over there, but yeah, not going to do an awful lot. There is, however, the Yugumo, who seems to have sailed the long way around and is now going after our carrier, or after this battleship over here. So I'm going to play a little bit cruiser while we're donking a couple more torpedoes into the Vermont, and just, you know, help out a little bit here in this corner. But we're now holding the center cap. So unless we're letting that Yugumo back in, which I'm not planning to, they are not going to get that back that easily, because we now have a destroyer of our own in there. There's the Rhone, however, so that's a bit of an issue. Smoke, ink, and we're going to go after the Kleber, because he is the one threatening currently the carrier, and the carrier is going after the Yugumo by the looks of it, so while running away from the Kleber. So let's give some fire support to Kleber, but we do need to watch out with that Rhone over there, because Rhone's hurt. Torpedo's not going to do anything against Kleber, obviously. Kleber is firing high explosive at me. That is okay. Armor piercing I'd be more worried about, honestly. And dang it, this thing is quick. There comes the Rhone. Fortunately, he's got the high explosive loaded. I'm not sure why, but can't rely on that to be happening forever. Let's get the Kleber worn down. And then I do need to wiggle the ship and make sure that I try to dodge as much as possible incoming shells from the Rhone. Okay, there's the Rhone. Let's drop some torpedoes in his general direction. Make that 15. There they come. And then we'll turn left, dodge the torpedoes from the Kleber, and get ourselves out of the firing arcs of that Rhone as much as possible. Ouch! Yep, that was the Rhone. I think he has found out that he needs to use the armor piercing. Kleber has run into the map border. The carrier is safe. He has dropped his torpedoes, and I think the Rhone just found out that I have torpedoes. Yeah, like I said, new ship, and people might still be learning that. But yeah, if you're in a destroyer, even if you're in a large, powerful gunboat destroyer, this is probably not a ship you want to mess with. It's not quite a Flint, but it's not that far from it. Come on, can we get him? Yes, we can. And he gets me in return, but the battle's already over. So yeah, that was that. Oh, we had a Friesland. I didn't even notice that. So that thing could take care of the carrier pretty effectively as well. So this was more of the, I would almost say, traditional scout cruiser style. But obviously, with this torpedo loadout, there are some other shenanigans that you can get yourself into. So let's do that again. In the second battle, we are playing on everybody's favorite map, the Atlantic, and it's base capture. And we're playing against Republik, Incomparable, Prinz Ruprecht, and a Sejong probably, which is the tier 9 version of what I'm sailing right now. So it's it has some bots in it, but we've got plenty of battleships to shoot at. Now, Atlantic, yeah, great map, but no enemy destroyers. Which again, I wouldn't be particularly afraid of. No enemy carrier either, which I wouldn't be super afraid of either. But the bigger problem with the carriers, obviously, is that they spot you, and then there are plenty of big guns out there that are going to be problems. But I'm going to run down this flank and see what we can find ourselves, because I'm relatively comfortable that probably, except for the Sejong, I can. I'm assuming it's Korean at this point. I don't know. I haven't looked. I'm assuming that I can outspot everything, so I don't have to be afraid. There is a bot Des Moines, which is the most powerful Des Moines. I've lost against bot Des Moines. These things are vicious. But right now, we were just sailing around, scouting the flank, going a bit wide, just to make sure we're spotting things before they see us. Okay, that's not a bot. That looks distinctly French. And there's another battleship out there, so torpedoes it is. Well, let's see what we can find ourselves. He is already reversing, knows that he's spotted, obviously. Yeah, that is the Republik. So he's going to reverse out of my torpedoes, so it's not worth firing. Oh, I would call this a target-rich environment. Look at them lining up there. Here, have some torpedoes. And then we get behind an island and make sure we're not getting spotted. Yes, you can absolutely stealth torp in this thing. You can play like a Shima. I mean, you don't have the speed like you would in a Shima, but you can sneak around relatively effectively. Now, this is where I'm sort of committing a bit of an error, because I'm thinking, I've got guns, I should be using them. What I should have really done is not use them and not alert them to my presence. But we're sending a... Yep. Plonk. Not alert them to my presence, so now they know that I'm here, but I don't think anyone's really been paying attention, except for that Republik has damage control to fire, but I'm not in a position to capitalize on it. Maybe I can drop some torpedoes on him, but we'll just shoot him, I guess. And now, is he turning? Yes, he's turning to look my way. Okay, round alert, run away. That's the Republik shooting at me. Okay, actually, dodge under the shots. Yes, that worked. But that thing's got rapid reload, so we need to wait for the fuel smoke to come off cooldown before we do the turn, so we can cover our turn here. The thing with the torpedoes is that even though they do take a little bit to reload, you have them on both sides, so you can... by the time you're using the other side, the first side is already reloaded. So we've got 10 torpedoes to go away against that Republik, but he obviously knows that he's under fire. But there's an Incomparable as well. So let's use the reload before we are firing, because I think the reload goes onto the longest, onto the tube that's either the one that's got the longest reload left or the one that's been fired first, something like that. But I generally just use it on one side and then turn around and use the other side. So more torpedoes. Hello, Incomparable. Have some torpedoes. Plonk. But yeah, then the Incomparable looks at me, and then this happens. Then the ship just explodes. So let's see if I can get out of this one. There comes some more Republik shots in. A couple more hits on the Incomparable. And We just did 100,000 points of damage in the space of like, I don't know, a minute and a half or something. See if I can get behind the island before these guys spot. Oh no, I'm spotted. Okay, I'm probably dead unless I can get behind the island before they see me. No. See, that's the thing, right? If a battleship just so much as looks at you, then the ship just scuttles itself pretty much. But yeah, we just landed 23 torpedo hits for 100,000 damage. Let's see if my team can bring this to completion. Okay, so the Incomparable is dead after that absolute slapping we've provided. Our Sovietsky Soyuz believes it's a great idea to brawl the Prinz Ruprecht. I'm not sure what the Prinz Ruprecht has done with his torpedoes, but that Sovietsky Soyuz should have been dead in my opinion, but it looks like he might actually win that fight. So, well, miracles happen, I guess. Yep, he does, but he's on perilously low hit points. There we have a Z-44, which has a decent amount of health. And we've got another battleship up north there, which is now getting into a fight. Yeah, that's the Großer Kurfürst, into a fight with the Republik. Republik, especially if she's got the rapid reload ready, those things hurt. So I'm not... the Großer Kurfürst does not have an awful lot of hit points left. I mean, Republik is not going to be citadeling that thing easily, but she's now kiting away, and my bet would almost be at the Frenchman at this point, because that Republik knows what he's doing. So another salvo, and I think the next one, the Großer Kurfürst, will be dead unless he can manage to get some good shots in, and it doesn't look like. So we've got... If Republik kills Großer Kurfürst, Sovietsky Soyuz is a one-shot, and if Z-44 does something stupid, like not capping, but going after the thing, then things might turn out differently. So, okay, Republik takes out the Großer Kurfürst, the Sovietsky Soyuz is a one-shot kill, and Z, what are you doing? Okay, there's the Soyuz. Soyuz, you should be running. There is absolutely there's no need for you to come over here. Why? Okay, Z is not capping. Republik knows that Z is in the capture circle, but I'm not sure if he knows where exactly he is. So, all right, everything's on the card. Z is going full risk because winning harder is necessary. Yep, there come the shots. And does he have the high explosive loaded? And Z is that looked like armor piercing actually, so he might not have. Z is smoking. These are the secondaries, but he is now in the smoke. Republik turns, probably going to dodge the first. I don't know what the Z-44 is capable of. So probably surviving that torpedo drop, but not that one. Okay, unless he has an engine boost and straightens out the ship. No, he's going full turn, and that's the end of the Republik. Okay, well done, Z. Unnecessary, but well done. So yeah, that thing, the Jinan. Is this ship overpowered? No. Because, and I'm going to stand by that, because you actually need a decent amount of skill to pull this off. You really need to know what you're doing, where you're going. You could say, oh yeah, but what if you have a triple division of those things? Yeah, absolutely. What if you have a triple Shima division? Same problem. Very powerful ship, but also extremely vulnerable. And I'm not just talking about battleships. Any heavy cruiser can make absolutely mincemeat out of the ship very, very quickly. So oftentimes it's almost better to play as a torpedo boat and not be spotted. You're very dangerous against destroyers. You are reasonably dangerous against aircraft carriers. So I would say it's a ship that I absolutely love. And I haven't tested as many games as I normally do. I think I've played like 5 games in this thing so far. And you have games where you do nothing because you get air spotted early and someone gets a lucky shot in at you and that's it, right? 2 citadels from a Vermont is probably enough to almost sink that thing. So, but you also get games where it works. This is a ship that punishes tactical misplays. So battleships that aren't escorted, flanks that aren't controlled, these sort of things, that ship can absolutely punish that. And this is something that I really, really enjoy if a ship has that kind of capability and can dish out this sort of punishment for poor tactical positioning on the enemy team. So, yeah, is it worth it? to grind that line? Absolutely. I'm already saving blueprints on my personal account for that. Unfortunately, I have absolutely zero time this week to even do anything on my personal account and go through the event. So I may just have to wait for the full line release and wait until everything comes out. But I absolutely love it. So it's a great ship in my opinion. If you really enjoy this sort of scout cruiser play, treat her like a destroyer, and I think you'll be rewarded for it. That's it for me today. Thanks everybody, and I will see you next time. Bye bye.